This is going to be a review of another Swordier product. About 10 months ago, I bought the original 18C blade that Swordier was marketing at the time. And in the previous review of that product, I felt that it was more of a 15A, not an 18C, because I felt that the blade was not broad enough and it was too pointy. A couple months after that video came out, they did in fact make a 15A sword. I did a review of this sword. It's a very nice sword. Awesome. Then I saw that they were making a version 2 18C blade. And so I sold my previous one and I bought this one. So this is the Mark II Swordier 18C blade. If you go online to Swordier and you look at this blade, you'll notice that they have a scent stopper pommel. This wheel pommel I had Swordier put on. I talked to Alex at Swordier. He was very responsive. He's always been pretty responsive when I've asked him questions. And I told him I wanted a wheel pommel, and he put one on there for me. The coin in here, I added those. Those are British 1 pound coins. So I got two pounds sterling in here. So just be aware of that. So here it is. This is much more in keeping with what I would consider an 18C blade. It's about a ½ inch broader than this one. Okay, it's noticeably broader. And it's not as pointy. It's more of a spatulated blade. If I look down the length of the blade, I can see that from about here down, there is reinforcement. So it's nicely distal tapered, like the previous blade, but it's thicker down here, right at the very end. So this point is more reinforced, and you're much less likely to damage it. The sword came very, very sharp, and I think the overall construction of these swords are actually getting better. The first 18C blade that I got from Swordier had a much more pronounced gap where the blade enters the guard. This sword is much better. They've included a maker's mark here. I had talked to Alex at Swordier and said, you guys got to put a mark on here so people know your stuff. And I think that honestly, if you're going to make items, you need to put your logo or your insignia on it. Because if you make something you don't want to put your name on it, then what's that saying about what you're making? So here it is. So this is $264. That's including the shipping, which is pretty good. Now it did cost me. That's minus the cost of this wheel pommel. It's about $30 to change out the pommel. That's what he charged me. So there's that. But if you wanted to just get it out of the box, if you wanted to order it, when I bought it anyway, it was $264, including the shipping. And it took about a month to get. Like the other sword, it is a diamond cross section. There is it is a very nice edge. Secondary bevel is barely noticeable. It came very, very sharp, as I said. Make sure I cut myself. The grip is black leather. I did notice that the dye that they used for this black leather did come off a bit as I've used it. I've had this for about a month, 2 months. And for me, that looks fine. I don't mind a bit of wear on it. But just be aware of that. So if I had recommendations, I would say maybe check your dye to make sure that dye is going to adhere to that leather a little bit better. Overall, though, just like the other Swordier products I've seen, the construction is very well done. The stitching is good. Doesn't feel bad. It's even all the way around. The peen on this looks very, very, very well executed. And there's nothing on this pommel that's going to give me hot spots or anything like that. This guard is the same guard that they used in the previous 18C. Now, one thing I did notice is that this blade is a shorter blade than the previous 18C. As I pointed out in the video review of this sword, this is the same blade as the 18C, but you can see this sword is about 2 inches longer, 1.5 inches longer, 2 inches, probably, close to 2 inches longer. And also the handle on this sword is shorter. It's more diminutive. You can see that. Not too much shorter. And I'm not talking about the pommel. I'm talking about the actual length of the sword grip. It's just slightly, it's like maybe 1/2 inch shorter. It doesn't change the handling characteristics. It doesn't change the point of balance. The point of balance is really, really good on this sword. Very, very nice. So I think this is a great sword for the price. $264 for this type of a sword. I think well done. The scabbard that it comes with is cheap. And Alex is upfront about that. Swordier is upfront about that, about trying to keep the cost down of these things. So the scabbard that this sword comes with is pretty lame. And you saw the pictures that I posted in the beginning of the belt that it comes with and the scabbard. I have subsequently changed that up completely. And we'll go over this in a second. But yeah, handling this is really good. You can handle this, you can use one hand, you can use two hands. Grip wise, it's good. It feels good. Like the other, unlike the previous 18C blade, you can get your thumb around here and right here. It's not sharp, so you can hold this here and not chop your freaking finger off if you hold it. If you wanted to hold it like that, you wouldn't have to. It also doesn't come with a little leather flap thingy, which I didn't mind, but anyway, that's pretty good. So there you go. The Swordier 18C Mark II, or version 2, or 2.0, or whatever you want to call it, from Swordier. Pretty darn nice. Is this an 18C? Its shape is an 18C, close to it. But if you compare it to Valor Arms 18C or Ronin Katana's 18C, Alexandria Sword, you can compare it to an Albion Princip. If you compare it to a Dark Sword 18C, if you compare this to most 18Cs you can buy, this is about that much shorter, about 3 inches shorter. I think the width is right, but it's a shorter blade. So if blade length is something you really are interested in, you may have a problem with this. However, the length of this blade to the handle, hilt, the pommel, the balance and accuracy is really, really good. Indexing is really, really good. And I think that, if you want a big gigantic sword, you could probably, if you want to get an 18C, get some other sword. But if you want an 18C that is really very lively, very responsive, and put together very well at a very good price, there you go. And now we'll talk about the scabbard. So I'm going to give you a close-up of my scabbard. As you can see, it's significantly nicer than the scabbard that it shipped with. Again, this is the actual scabbard that it came with, but I replaced all the belt system with this. I tooled this leather. I tooled this. These fittings are all from Lord of Battles. They're very inexpensive, actually, to get these. I mean, you can get more expensive ones. These are not that expensive. They're all riveted in the back. And then same thing with these fittings here. And then these come together and they join here and they get connected to this little guy, which is here. And I I use these to hold this suspension system in the small of my back, which for me, it makes the sword sit nice, and yeah, so it's much nicer, but you have to kind of spend the money to do it. So you might question, like, okay, well, how much money, Scott, did it cost you to do this? And I'll be honest with you. I'll try to be honest with you about how much it costs. This is about $10, $20, $30. These, you have to buy 20 of them, so that's another $20. So that's $50, $55. This is $5, so $60. These are about $15, so $75. So say $100 extra to do this. So, you know, just, and maybe I'll have how I did this. Maybe I'll do a working video of that sometime. I don't know. Anyway, ooh, and before I go, look at this. Isn't this cool? This is awesome. Check this out. This is not done. This is a 3D printed gauntlet, or it's the beginning of a 3D printed gauntlet. Oh man, my brother did me a solid by doing this. This is so cool. I mean, compare that to, you know, like this gauntlet, which is great. This is awesome. These are heavy duty. But for Ren Fair stuff like that, oh man, this is totally kick-ass. It's just, it's wonderful. And it's a finger gauntlet, so there will be fingers here. I haven't put it together, but yeah, so neat. Anyway, that's it. So have a good day. Bye.